The human held our species most dangerous predator like a misbehaving pet, and it was purring. Let me back up. You need context for this, colleagues. You need to understand just how catastrophically wrong this entire situation was from the very first moment. I'm Creech, Senior Xenological Supervisor for Intake Station Gamma 9. 18 cycles of service, 4 commendations. For protocol adherence, 0 incidents. On my record until the day a human wedding planner decided that our biosafety regulations were more like gentle suggestions. It started at morning shift change. I was reviewing manifest reports when Vaughn came sprinting into my office. Vaughn never sprints. Vaughn barely walks quickly. But there he was, breathing hard, his crest flattened in panic. The Kravik cub is loose, he said. I dropped my data pad. Define loose in the commons. Level 3, moving toward public spaces. Every protocol alarm in my head started screaming. Kravik cubs, for those of you blessed enough to never encounter one, are approximately 60 lb of teeth, claws, and predatory instinct wrapped in deceptively soft fur. Their bite pressure can puncture standard hole plating. They're classified as biosafety level 5. There are exactly 9 containment procedures, and all of them involve sedation teams and reinforced barriers. Initiate lockdown, I said already. Moving, full containment protocol. Where's the mother? Specimen holding Subble 2 still secured. Keep her there. Last thing we need is a protective parent rampage. I grabbed my emergency kit and ran. The station-wide alarm was already blaring by the time I reached level 3, bulkhead. Doors sealed behind me. Standard procedure. If the cub killed someone, at least we'd contain the carnage to one section. The commons area was empty. Everyone had evacuated per protocol, which meant somewhere in this space was a terrified, potentially aggressive predator cub with no supervision and no. I heard humming, human humming, melodic, unconcerned, coming from behind the refreshment station. I came around the corner with my tranquilizer ready and stopped so fast I nearly tripped. Human was sitting cross-legged on the floor. The Kravik cub was in her lap. Not attacking, not mauling, sitting like some kind of domestic companion creature. One of her hands scratched behind its primary ear cluster. The other held a drink container. The cub's eyes were half closed. It was making that rumbling sound Kraviks make when they're content, the sound we documented exactly twice in captivity, both times after feeding on live prey. Oh hey, the human said, looking up at me. Is this yours? Little guy was wandering around looking lost, seemed hungry. I stared. My translator was working fine. I could hear her words. They just didn't make any sense strung together like that. That I managed is a Kravik cub biosafety level 5. It should be in reinforced containment. Huh? She looked down at the cub, which had now rolled onto its back for belly rubs. Belly rubs. He seems pretty chill to me. What's his name? It doesn't have a name. It has a specimen designation, and you need to release it immediately so we can initiate sedation protocols. Sedation. The human's face did that thing humans do when they're appalled. He's just a baby. Look at him. I looked. The cub was gnawing gently on her finger, the same finger that should have been separated from her hand by now. Its retractable claws, each capable of shredding smart fabric, were tucked away It appeared to be, and I say this with my full credentials in xenobiology, cuddling. That baby, I said carefully, has documented kill capacity against adults of 17 different species, including yours. Really? She tilted her head. The cub mirrored the gesture. Doesn't seem like the type. You're not vicious, are you? Buddy, no you're not, you're just hangry and confused. The cub made a chirping sound. I'd never heard a Kravik chirp. I didn't know they could chirp, ma'am. I tried again. I need you to very slowly stand up and Iris, excuse me, my name is Iris, not ma'am. She stood up in one smooth motion, cub cradled in her arms like an infant. It weighed 60 lb. She held it like it weighed nothing. Now where are his parents? He needs to go home. This isn't, you can't just. I took a breath, started over. The cub is a research specimen. Its mother is in our xenobiological wing. But there are procedures, protocols. You can't simply walk. She was already walking toward the restricted access corridor, carrying a biosafety level 5 predator humming again. I followed. Because what else was I supposed to do? Let a human wander my station with a creature that could kill her in seconds? My career would survive the protocol violations. It wouldn't survive explaining to the human integration office why one of their citizens got mauled. The containment area requires authorization. I called after her, so authorize me. It doesn't work like that. Sure it does. I plan events for a living. There's always a way to get people where they need to be. She paused at the security panel. You coming? I overrode the door lock, logged it as emergency containment retrieval. Technically true. Technically the xenobiological wing was quiet. Most staff had evacuated per lockdown protocol. The few who remained pressed themselves against walls as we passed. I didn't blame them. Watching a human carry a Kravik cub like a sleepy toddler would make anyone question reality. This way, I said, leading her to the specimen holding area, but I need to warn you, the mother hasn't shown typical maternal bonding. She was captured during an illegal breeding operation. The cub was born in captivity. Their relationship is already compromised. Compromised how? She's rejected proximity 17 times, shows stress indicators when the cub is near. Iris frowned. That's not normal for Kraviks. It's unheard of. Their maternal bonds are absolute, documented across thousands of observations. A mother would die before abandoning her offspring, but this one won't go near him. Correct, huh? She adjusted her grip on the cub. Well, let's see what happens. I entered the security codes. The holding cell unsealed. The mother was in the back corner, exactly where she'd been since arrival. Magnificent creature, nearly 400 lb of muscle and protective instinct. She looked up as we entered, saw the cub, and flattened herself against the wall, her breathing rapid, her claws extended. Iris stopped. Okay, that's definitely not normal. The cub squirmed in her arms, making questioning sounds. Reaching toward its mother, the mother's eyes went wide. She vocalized a sharp warning bark that meant danger. Threat, flee. Hey, it's okay, Iris said softly, to which one I wasn't sure. Look, Mama, it's your baby. He's safe. He's right here. She took a step forward. The mother scrambled backward, slamming into the corner. Her whole body was trembling. Iris, I said quietly, I don't think this is going to work. Give me a minute. She crouched down still, Holding the cub, her voice shifted into something soothing, rhythmic. I've dealt with difficult family situations before. Last month I had a bride who wouldn't speak to her mother-in-law, worked it out eventually. This is just, a slightly more toothy version of that. This is nothing like wedding planning. Everything is like wedding planning. It's all about managing personalities and expectations. She set the cub down gently, keeping one hand on its back. Come on, buddy, go see your mom. The cub took 3 steps forward. The mother vocalized again, louder, desperate. And then she did something I've never seen a Kravik mother do in my entire career. She ran not toward her offspring, away from it. She threw herself at the enclosure wall, clawing at the barrier, trying to escape from her own cub, her own genetic legacy, the thing every instinct in her species should have driven her to protect with her life. The cub sat down and made a sound I can only describe as confused sadness. Iris looked at me. Okay, that's really not normal. No, I said. My hands were shaking. I was watching 18 cycles of xenobiological understanding collapse in real time. No, it's not. The mother was still trying to break through the wall. The cub was still sitting there watching her, making those small sad sounds, and the human was looking at both of them with the expression I'd seen her use earlier, the expression that meant she was about to treat a catastrophic xenobiological incident like a seating chart problem. Right, Iris said. She picked the cup back up. It immediately quieted, pressing against her. We need to figure out what's actually going on here, because that mother isn't rejecting her baby. She's terrified of it. Kraviks don't experience fear of their own offspring. It's biologically impossible. Their neural pathways literally won't form those associations. And yet she gestured at the mother, who was now huddled in the corner, shaking. So either your biology textbooks are wrong or something else is happening here. Before I could respond, my comm device chimed. Vor's voice came through, tense. Krevnesh, we have a situation. Hi. Examiner Thiel just arrived. She's requesting immediate access to the specimen holding area. She's brought a full xenobiological ethics team. I closed my eyes. Of course she had. Tell her I'll brief her in 5 minutes, she says immediately. 5 minutes. I closed the comm, looked at Iris, who was now swaying gently side to side, rocking the cub like it was a fussy human infant. It was working. The creature was calming down. You need to put the cub in a holding cell, I said. Now, before the high examiner gets here. Why? Because she's going to want to separate you from it. Standard protocol when specimens bond inappropriately with non-species individuals. Inappropriately. Iris's eyebrows went up. He's not bonded inappropriately. He's bonded to someone who actually gives a damn about him. That's not how the regulations see it. Then the regulations are stupid. Nevertheless, the door opened. I hadn't heard it unseal, hadn't heard the override codes. But there she was, High Examiner Thelix. 3 decades of experience, author of the definitive text on Kravik social structures, the absolute worst person to walk in on this situation. She looked at Iris, at the cub, at the mother still trembling in the corner. Her crest went rigid with shock. Explain, she said. Explain this. Immediately. I opened my mouth. No sound came out. How exactly was I supposed to explain? Watching every theory in Thelix's life Work dissolve in front of her. Iris, however, had no such hesitation. "Hi," she said cheerfully, "I'm Iris. I found your escaped research subject and I think we need to have a serious conversation about your containment protocols because this little guy was just wandering around unsupervised. Also, his mom has some kind of rejection issue going on, might want to look into that." Theo stared at her, then at me, then at the cub, which had started purring again. "Who," she said slowly, "authorized a human to handle a biosafety level 5 specimen? I was definitely getting fired. Nobody authorized it," I said. Quickly, she just picked it up. Delrix's crest flared, picked it up. A Kravik cub. She picked it up. It seemed like the thing to do, Iris said. He was scared and alone. What was I supposed to do? Leave him there? Yes. Felric stepped closer, her scanner already out taking readings. That is precisely what you were supposed to do. Kravik cubs are extremely dangerous when distressed. He wasn't distressed until you all started treating him like a biohazard. Iris shifted her grip protectively. Cub burrowed closer to her. He's a baby. Babies need comfort. That baby has documented aggression patterns that. Delrich stopped, looked at her scanner. Looked at it again. This can't be right. What? I moved to see the display. The cub's stress hormones were nearly baseline. Its heart rate was steady. Every indicator suggested a state of complete calm, impossible for a Kravik cub separated from its mother in an unfamiliar environment with unknown species nearby. Run it again, Felrich said. Same results. It's malfunctioning, she decided. She pulled out a backup scanner, ran the same tests, identical readings. They looked at Iris like she was some kind of physics violation. What are you doing to it? Nothing, just holding him. Iris paused, and I gave him part of my sandwich earlier. He seemed hungry. You fed it unsanctioned nutrition. Turkey and cheese. He loved it. I watched Thelic cycle through approximately 6 different emotional states. Landed on clinical curiosity. The mother, show me the mother's response pattern. I gestured to the holding cell. The mother was still pressed against the far wall, watching us, watching the cub. Her body language screamed terror. Theory went very still. She'd written 17 papers on Kravik maternal bonds. I'd read every one. I watched her entire theoretical framework try to process what she was seeing. Scan the mother, she said quietly. I did. Fear markers through the ceiling. Stress hormones at dangerous levels. Fight or flight response fully activated. Proximity test. Felix ordered, bring the cub closer to the barrier. Is that safe? Iris asked for the cub. Yes, for my understanding of xenobiology, apparently not. Felix's voice had gone flat. Please. Iris walked to the barrier. The cub made happy chirping sounds. The mother made sounds I'd only heard in predator attack warnings. She threw herself at the opposite wall. Again clawed frantically, would have broken bones trying to escape if the wall had given even slightly enough. Thelris held up a hand. Remove the cub from her sight line. Iris stepped back. The mother collapsed, panting. Colleagues, Thelrich said, and I realized she was recording. I am witnessing maternal rejection in a Kravik. This should not exist. This cannot exist per current bonding theory. Yet here it is. So your theory is wrong, Iris said. 30 years of research across thousands of subjects, never once Documented but yes, apparently wrong. Theo looked at Iris. The cub needs to be separated from you for proper behavioral assessment. No, just like that, no explanation, no justification. Just know this isn't a request, Delrich said. I'm invoking emergency research protocols that specimen needs. The cub made a sound, low rumbling, not the happy purr from earlier, a warning. Its claws extended slightly, its eyes fixed on Theorix, every muscle in its small body tensed. Back up, I said quickly. Slowly. Thelix stepped back. The cub relaxed, retracted its claws, went back to nuzzling Iris. Well, Iris said, I think he made his opinion clear. My comm device exploded with alerts. Vor's voice cut through. Creech, we have 7 more specialists arriving. They're all requesting access, and the station director wants a briefing. Of course she did. Probably wanted to know why her senior xenological supervisor had let a human adopt a predator. Tell them 10 minutes, I said. They said now. Then they can wait in discomfort. I closed the comm, looked at the we need a plan. The plan is standard separation protocol. Sedate the specimen, transfer it to reinforced containment, begin behavioral analysis. He has a name, you know, Iris said. Or he should can't keep calling him it and specimen. That's just rude. It doesn't have the neural complexity for name recognition. Sure he does. Watch. Iris looked down at the cub. Hey buddy, little guy. Sweetheart. The cub's ears perked up at each word, responded with different chirps. That's not name recognition, Theorich said. That's tonal response to vocal patterns. Call it whatever you want. He knows I'm talking to him. Iris scratched behind his ears. What should we call you? Something tough. You're a tough guy, right? The cub bit her finger. Gently she laughed. How about bits? You like biting things? Bits. The cub chirped louder than before, almost excited. Bits it is. I realized in that moment that I'd lost complete control of this situation, assuming I'd ever had it. The human had named the biosafety level 5 specimen. The specimen responded, and high examiner Theo looked like someone had just explained that gravity was optional. None of this follows documented patterns, she said. Kraviks don't bond with non-species individuals. They don't respond to arbitrary designations. They don't show preference for specific handlers. Maybe your documentation's incomplete, Iris suggested. 30 years of, yeah, you mentioned, but 30 years of watching them in captivity. Right, in controlled environments. Following your protocols. Iris shifted bits to her other arm. What if the problem isn't the Kraviks? What if it's how you're studying them? The door opened again. This time it was a whole Team 6 specialists in biosafety gear. Scanners out, moving in information like they were approaching a containment breach. Leading them was Dr. Kelvin, interspecies protocol director, famous for writing regulations so comprehensive they covered scenarios that had never happened until today, apparently. Status report, he demanded. Human has bonded with Kravik cub. Thelrich said. Mother shows rejection. Response, all documented behavioral patterns are compromised. Kelvin looked at Iris at bits. His crest cycled through colors I'd never seen before. This is unprecedented, he said. I'm getting that impression, Iris replied. The specimen must be secured immediately. Standard protocol for bits. Growled, soft but clear. The specialists stopped advancing. He doesn't like crowds, Iris said. Back up a bit, you're making him nervous. It's a specimen, it doesn't have preferences. He's literally growling at you. That seems like a preference. Kelvin pulled out a restraint device. Professional grade, designed for exactly this scenario. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to release the specimen into this containment unit. His name is Bits, and no, this isn't optional. Sure it is. Everything's optional. You just have to decide what matters more. Iris looked down at Bits, back up at Kelvin. And I'm deciding that this baby matters more than your paperwork. This is a violation of at least 14 station regulations. Add it to my file. I watched Kelvin's expression cycle through shock, anger, and confusion. Landed somewhere around helpless frustration. I sympathized. I'd been there for the last hour. Creechy said, explain how we've reached this situation. The cub escaped. The human secured it. The mother rejected it. Standard protocols don't apply. I paused. Apparently, everything applies. We just need to determine proper containment procedures. 4. Bits made that sad sound again, the same one he'd made when his mother ran from him, small, confused. Heartbreaking if you ignored the fact that he could tear through bulkheads. Iris pulled him closer, started humming. Again, that same melody from before. He quieted immediately. Every specialist in the room made notes on their data pads, recording the impossible, documenting what shouldn't exist. Run a full behavioral analysis, Kelvin ordered. I want hormonal panels, stress markers, bonding indicators, and someone explain to me why a Kravic cub responds to human vocal patterns. The specialists moved forward with their scanners. Bits growled again, louder. They stopped. He really doesn't like you all, Iris observed. Maybe try being less threatening. We're not threatening. We're scientifically observing. With sedation equipment and restraints. Super non-threatening. She sighed. Look, how about this? You back up, give us space, let Bits calm down. Then maybe we can figure this out. Like reasonable people. Reasonable people follow biosafety protocols, Kelvin said. Reasonable people adapt when protocols don't work. They stared at each other. Professional standoff, human wedding planner versus interspecies protocol director. Then Bits made a decision for everyone. He reached out one paw, hooked a claw into Iris's shirt, pulled himself impossibly closer, made it absolutely clear where his preference lay, and the mother, watching from her cell, made a sound I'd never heard a Kravic make. Not fear, not aggression, relief. That sound changed everything. The heard it, spun to face the holding cell. Scanner already activating. Run that vocalization through the database immediately. One of the specialists complied, waited, frowned. No match in documented Kravic communication patterns. Expand search to all observed vocalizations. Captive and wild populations. Still nothing. High examiner. Felix moved closer to the barrier. The mother watched her but didn't retreat. This time just sat there still. Panting, still stressed but tracking the cub in Iris's arms with something that looked almost like hope. Mother's stress markers are decreasing. I reported, watching my scanner. Heart rate coming down, hormonal panel stabilizing. That makes no sense, Kelvin said. Her offspring is still present. She should be maintaining fear response. Unless she's not afraid of the offspring, Iris said quietly. She's afraid for it. Everyone turned to look. At her. Explain, Thelris demanded. I've seen this before. Different context. Obviously human context, but I once planned a wedding where the bride's mother refused to be in the same room as her, wouldn't even look at her. Everyone thought she hated her daughter. Iris adjusted bits in her arms. Turns out the daughter had been in an abusive relationship, got out, but she still carried, I don't know how to explain it, an association, a sense of danger. And the mother couldn't separate her daughter from the threat. Every time she looked at her, all she saw was the trauma. The specialists glanced at each other. Kelvin's crest flattened skeptically. You're anthropomorphizing, he said, projecting human emotional patterns onto a completely different species. Maybe. Or maybe fear is fear, and trauma is trauma, regardless of how many legs you have. Thiel hadn't moved. She was staring at the mother at bits. Her expression had gone distant, calculating. The illegal breeding operation, she said slowly, where the mother was captured. Do we have details? I pulled up the files. Rated 4 months ago, operated by a Vexcar crime syndicate. They were breeding Kravix for the exotic predator market. Mother was pregnant when rescued, gave birth 3 weeks into our custody. Conditions. Reports indicate severe neglect, inadequate containment, evidence of electric deterrent use, and chemical restraints. So the mother was traumatized during pregnancy, Thielrich said, exposed to threat stimuli, chronic stress, and the cub was born into that environment. Born here, actually, in our medical wing, but carried through the trauma just stated. While the mother was in survival modes. Voice had gone soft. Theoretical hormonal cascades would have crossed the placental barrier. Stress markers embedded in developmental patterns. The cub would carry those chemical signatures. Waris said to his own mother, I'm saying it's possible, unprecedented but possible. The mother's threat recognition system may have imprinted the trauma onto the offspring's biochemical profile. Felix looked at Kelvin. We need to test this hypothesis. How? Kelvin asked. We can't exactly ask the mother what she's experiencing. No, but we can measure threat response versus separation anxiety. If the mother is experiencing protective instinct, that's being overridden by trauma association. There should be measurable conflict in her neural patterns. One of the specialists stepped forward. That would require invasive scanning procedures. The mother is already stressed. Additional procedures could be harmful, more harmful than living in perpetual fear of her own offspring. Delrix countered. The question, I said carefully, is whether we have the right to make that determination. Everyone looked at me. I mean, we're all standing here debating theory and protocols, but that's a thinking, feeling being in there with preferences, with fears. Maybe we should consider what she wants. Specimens don't have wants, Kelvin said automatically. She's not a specimen, she's a person. Iris's voice had gone quiet. Dangerous quiet, the kind I'd heard her use exactly once before, right before she told Kelvin that Bits's name was Bits, and she's terrified and confused. And maybe instead of scanning her and theorizing about her, someone should try asking her what's wrong. We don't have translation protocols for Kravic emotional states. You don't need translation, you need observation. Iris looked at the expert. Right, you've studied them for 30 years, watch her, really watch her. Tell me what you see. Theelrich stared at Iris for a long moment, then turned back to the holding cell. The mother was sitting now still, pressed against the far wall, but upright, alert. Her eyes tracked between the cub and the door, between threat and escape. But every few seconds her gaze would linger on Bits just for a moment, before jerking away like it hurt to look. Conflict, Thelrich said softly. She wants to approach. Her body language suggests approach motivation, but she can't. Something is overriding the impulse. The trauma markers, one of the specialists suggested, perhaps, but there's something else. Felix moved to the control panel. I'm going to try something. Creech, monitor her stress levels. What are you doing? Removing a variable. She pressed a series of commands. The lighting in the holding cell changed, dimmed, shifted to a wavelength closer to natural Kravik habitat conditions. The mother's breathing changed, immediately slowed, deepened, stress markers decreasing. I reported cortisol dropping, heart rate stabilizing further. Environmental stress was compounding the response. Thiel murmured, she's been in survival mode for months, since capture, since before her entire threat assessment system is hyperactive. Iris had gone very quiet, watching. When she spoke, her voice was gentle. Can I try something? That depends entirely on what you're trying, Kelvin said. I want to talk to her, not at her, to her. Iris looked down at Bits, and I want to let her see him, really see him, not as a threat, as her baby. That's exactly what we've been attempting, Kelvin protested. No, you've been attempting reunification. Protocols you've been following. Procedures. I'm talking about just being present. Letting her process, giving her space to figure out what she's feeling. Kraviks don't process emotions like humans do. Maybe not, but every parent I've ever worked with, every species in every culture, they all had one thing in common. Iris met his eyes. They all needed time, space, permission to feel complicated things. Thiel was nodding slowly. It couldn't hurt. Current approach has yielded no positive results. Krevnosh, open a communication channel to the holding cell. I activated the audio system. She can hear us now. Iris took a breath, shifted Bits slightly, walked closer to the barrier. But not threateningly. Just present. Hey, she said softly. I know you can't understand me, or maybe you can a little. I don't know how much translation you get, but I want you to know that your baby is safe. He's confused, he's scared, he doesn't understand why you won't come near him. But he's safe. The mother's ears rotated toward the sound, listening. He's a good kid, really good, sweet, gentle when he wants to be. He likes having his ears scratched. He makes these little chirping sounds when he's happy. He fell asleep on me earlier. Just completely trusted me to keep him safe. Bits chirped at the sound of Iris's voice. The mother flinched but didn't look away this time. I know something bad happened to you. Iris continued. I can see it. Anyone who looks at you can see it, and I know that. When you look at him, all you see is that bad thing, the fear, the pain, the memory of being trapped and hurt. The mother's breathing had changed. Faster, but not panic, something else. But he wasn't the one who hurt you. He didn't choose any of this. He's just a baby who wants his mom. Iris's voice cracked slightly. And you're just a mom who wants her baby, but you can't get past the fear, can you? The mother made A sound soft questioning. I don't know how to fix this, Iris. Admitted, I don't know if it can be fixed, but I promise you I will keep him safe. I will protect him. I will make sure he knows that someone loves him, even if you can't right now. Belrix was recording everything. Every specialist in the room had their scanners active, documenting, measuring, trying to quantify something that maybe couldn't be quantified. The mother stood up slowly, carefully, took one step toward the barrier, then another. Her stress levels are rising. Again I warned, wait. The said another step. The mother was shaking. Her claws were extended, but not in aggression. Intention, in effort. She reached the barrier, stood there, looking at her cub for the first time, without the wall of fear between them. Bits went very still in Iris's arms, made a small sound, questioning, hopeful. The mother pressed one paw against the barrier, then her forehead, then collapsed against it, trembling, and made that sound again. Clear's throat, the relief sound mixed, now with something else, something that sounded across all species barriers, all translation difficulties like grief. She's mourning, Delrix whispered. She's mourning the bond she can't have. Iris's face was wet. She'd been crying. I hadn't noticed when she'd started. Can we lower the barrier just for a moment? Absolutely not, Kelvin said. The risk of she's not going to hurt him. She's going to run. She's going to run because that's all she knows how to do, but she deserves the chance to try. Iris looked at Theory. Please. Theo stood frozen. 30 years of protocol, 30 years of procedure, 30 years of playing it safe. She reached for the control panel. Kelvin grabbed her arm. High Examiner, I must protest. This violates every safety protocol we have. Then we'll write new ones. Felix pulled her arm free. Sometimes, colleagues, we have to remember that our protocols exist to protect life, not to prevent it from being messy. She lowered the barrier. The mother stood there free, no obstacle between her and her cub, no excuse, no safety, just choice. She took one step forward. Bits reached out one small paw. The mother bolted, ran to the corner, pressed herself against the wall, made sounds of distress that would haunt my dreams for cycles, but this time she didn't take her eyes off her cub, not once, and through her fear, through her trauma, through everything that made this impossible, she vocalized one word, clear, unmistakable in any language, a name. She'd named her cub, something she could only do if she recognized it as hers, as family, as worth protecting, even when she couldn't. Felix's scanner clattered to the floor. Colleagues, she said, her voice shaking, I believe we need to reconsider everything we think we know about Kravik maternal bonds. Iris looked at me, then at Kelvin, then at the mother, still trembling in the corner. I think, she said quietly, she's asking me to keep him. The silence that followed Iris's statement lasted approximately 5 seconds before Kelvin's crest went through. Colors I'm fairly certain aren't natural. Absolutely not, he said. That's not how interspecies custody works. That's not how anything works. We have protocols for parents who reject their offspring. Yes, Iris hadn't moved, still holding Bits, still watching the mother. But do you have protocols for parents who want their children safe but can't provide that safety themselves? That's not what's happening here, isn't it? Delrix was staring at her scanner displays. The mother's stress decreases when the human holds the cub, increases when we discuss separation. She's displaying protective advocacy through proxy care. Delegation. You just made that term up, Kelvin. Accused. Yes, because we don't have terminology for this situation. Because it's never happened before. Theo looked at the mother. She's not abandoning her offspring. She's entrusting it to someone she perceives as capable of providing care she cannot. Based on what evidence? Based on 30 years of studying a species. That just broke every rule I thought I understood. Delrix's voice cracked. She named the cub Kelvin in front of witnesses while separated from it. That's not rejection. That's recognition of reality. One of the specialists cleared their throat nervously. If we're discussing custody transfer, we need legal representation, interspecies advocacy, formal documentation. This could set precedent for dozens of similar cases across the sector. There are no similar cases, I said. This is completely unique. All the more reason for proper documentation. Kelvin pulled out his comm device. I'm calling the legal department. Nobody moves, nobody makes any decisions. We do this correctly, or we don't do it at all. Ira sat down on the floor cross-legged. Bits in her lap. Take your time, we'll wait. The next 2 hours were colleagues. And education and bureaucratic creativity, legal representatives arrived. Xenobiological ethicists, cultural liaison officers, someone from interspecies child welfare, which I didn't know existed until they walked through the door. They filled the observation area, arguing, debating, citing regulations that had nothing to do with this situation because there were no regulations for this situation. Iris sat quietly through all of it, scratching bits behind his ears, humming, occasionally letting the professionals be professional. The mother hadn't moved from her corner, but she'd stopped vocalizing distress. Just watched, waited, her body language suggesting exhausted patience. Finally, Dr. Kelvin held up his hands. Enough, we need structure. Felix, present your assessment. The mother has bonded with the offspring, but cannot overcome trauma-based threat. Response: separation causes distress to both parties. Traditional reunification protocols have failed. The human appears capable of providing adequate care, and the offspring has formed attachment. Felix paused. My professional opinion is that we're witnessing cultural precedent. Kravik extended care networks through non-species surrogacy. That's not documented in any literature. Neither was maternal trauma response. Until today. Felix gestured at the mother. We're not documenting theory anymore. We're documenting reality. The legal representative, Axe named Vorek, consulted his data pad. If the mother formally requests custody, transfer, and if the human consents, and if we can establish adequate care protocols, there's precedent in sector Regulation 4418B for interspecies guardianship in cases of parental incapacity. The mother isn't incapacitated, someone protested. She's psychologically unable to provide direct care. That qualifies. Vorek looked at Iris. You understand what you'd be agreeing to. A Kravik cub requires specialized nutrition, environmental considerations, significant time investment. They live 40 cycles on average. You'd be responsible for its entire developmental period. His name is Bits, Iris said, and yes, I understand. You'd need to pass competency evaluations, demonstrate adequate knowledge of Kravik Developmental stages, establish care. Protocols approved by Xenobiological. Oversight submit to quarterly. Inspections for the first 5 cycles. Fine, you'd be legally liable for any. Damage the specimen causes, any. Injuries, any property destruction. He's not a specimen, and I accept the liability. Vorek's crest twitched. You're very confident for someone who met this creature 3 hours ago. I plan weddings for a living. I once managed an event where the bride's family didn't speak to the groom's family. The caterer quit mid-reception, and the venue caught fire during the ceremony. We still made it work. Iris smiled. I think I can handle 1 cub. This isn't a seating chart dispute. No. It's more important, which is why I'm saying yes. Vorek looked at Kelvin at me. We need the mother's formal consent, documented, witnessed, translated. She doesn't speak standard, I pointed out. Then we use behavioral confirmation. Protocols, present the choice measure. Response, ensure understanding. Vorek pulled up a form on his data pad. 17 pages of legal text. This will take time. Then let's start, Thelrich said. They set up translation equipment, visual displays showing the 2 options, cub return to mother's direct care or cub placed with human guardian, simple images, clear choices. The mother watched the display, then looked at Iris at bits back at the display. She moved to the visual interface, placed her paw on the human guardian option firmly, deliberately, without hesitation. Confirmed choice, Vorek recorded. Witnessed by, he counted heads, 14. Station personnel and 3 legal representatives. Mother has selected. Proxy care delegation. Now we need the human's formal acceptance. I accept, Iris said. It's not that simple. There are forms, protocols. You need to acknowledge each specific responsibility. I accept all of them. Just tell me where to sign. Vorek blinked, then pulled up the documentation. Started listing requirements. Iris agreed to every single one without reading the details. Kelvin looked like he wanted to intervene but couldn't find legal grounds. That's Vorek scrolled through his data pad. That's everything. Pending competency evaluation, which we can schedule for now. Delrix interrupted. Test her now. I'll administer it personally. Hi. Examiner, it's a comprehensive examination. Takes 4 hours minimum. Then will be done in 4 hours. Thiel pulled up evaluation protocols. Basic Kravic biology, development stages, nutritional requirements, social behavior patterns, common health issues. Let's begin. What followed was the fastest competency evaluation I've ever witnessed. The asked questions, Iris answered. Sometimes correctly from research. Sometimes incorrectly but reasonably. Sometimes with, I don't know but I'll learn. That last answer seemed to satisfy the more than the correct ones. She's honest about her limitations. Thiel noted, that's more valuable than false confidence. 3 hours later, Vorek reviewed the results. She passed barely but passed. Good enough, Thelrich said. Now we need to establish care protocols, housing requirements. The cub can't live in standard quarters, needs environmental controls, reinforced walls, specialized. My quarters are adaptable, Iris said. I'll make modifications. With what resources? Specialized. Containment, construction costs. I'll figure it out. I always do. Kelvin sighed, the sound of a man watching his Organized universe dissolve into chaos. This is completely irregular. Yes, Thelris agreed. It is, colleagues. I suggest we embrace irregularity. Our regular approaches have consistently failed. We still need transfer protocols. Mother should be present for custody. Handoff, proper documentation requires. She's right there. Iris pointed out. She's been present for everything. She knows what's happening. Nevertheless, the mother vocalized that. Same sound from before, the name she'd given her cub, then she moved to the barrier, looked at Iris, made a gesture. With one paw, unmistakably clear across. All species boundaries, go take him. Keep him safe. Iris stood slowly, walked to the barrier. I promise, she said. Softly, I promise I'll protect him. I'll teach him. I'll make sure he knows where he came from, and if you ever can be near him, I'll bring him to visit, okay? The mother pressed her paw against the barrier. Iris pressed her hand against it from the other side, bits between them, understanding in whatever way cubs understand that something important was happening. The mother withdrew her paw, backed away, curled up in the corner, but peacefully now, exhausted, relieved. Transfer complete. Vorak recorded. Custody officially assigned to Iris. Human resident of Station Gamma 9 under provisions of Sector Regulation 4418B. With oversight from Senior Xenological Supervisor Krevnesh and High Examiner Theo. Wait, I'm oversight, I protested. You were present for the entire incident. Calvin said you're responsible for monitoring compliance quarterly. Reports, inspection, coordination. Congratulations. Iris looked at me, grinned. Guess we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Apparently, she shifted bits in her arms. He'd fallen asleep somewhere during the legal proceedings. Come on, buddy, let's go home. You need to stop by medical first. Said. Initial health screening, baseline measurements, and you need these. She handed over a data pad, care guidelines, emergency protocols, my direct contact information. Thank you, don't thank me, just don't make me regret rewriting 30 years of scientific understanding. Theo paused, and Iris, he's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have him. She walked out carrying a biosafety level 5 predator like he was a sleepy toddler, humming that same melody, bits purring softly. 3 months later, I filed my quarterly inspection report. Iris had modified her quarters with reinforced play areas, environmental controls, and a schedule that would make military operations jealous. Bits had grown 6 in, learned to sit on command, stopped biting scientists mostly. The wedding she'd been planning when this started, she'd incorporated bits into the ceremony. Ring bearer walked down the aisle, perfectly behaved, carrying the rings in a small pouch. The guests loved it, the couple loved it. Nobody got mauled. I watched from the back, taking notes. For my report, watched Iris coordinate everything with one hand while scratching bits behind his ears with the other. She caught my eye, waved. I waved back. Sometimes, colleagues, the universe shows you that everything you know is wrong, and sometimes that's exactly what needs to